Welcome to this celebration of Professor Raymond Simon. My name is Joe Zapala. You're probably wondering what the hell someone from Cornell is doing here. I spent 14 years here at Ithaca College. President Hutton is giving me a very dirty look. So I live in Ithaca, so that's why I was getting confused. So I actually came on board in the late 80s, and Ray Simon was my mentor when I got started here. I took over as the lead public relations professor, and when Kim called me and said, would you be able to come to this little party and host the event, I said, absolutely. If I've got something going, I'll make sure I cancel it because I really want to be here for this. So thank you, Kim. And it's been great to see all you folks and a lot of my former students. It's been nice to catch up. We have a great program tonight. We've got a number of distinguished speakers who are going to say a few words about Ray. We also got some multimedia to jazz things up. And it's going to be a great program. Before we get started, I just want to share my own little Ray story. When I started here, I really kind of fell into teaching. I was working in agencies. I thought maybe teaching would be something I might like to do. I had started an intern program where I worked, and I applied for this job at Utica College, and I kept going through the process, and all of a sudden I realized I was going to get this job, and of course I was working and meeting with Ray through the process. And when I got started, I didn't really know too much about what I was doing. I hadn't really been an instructor before. And, Ray, of course, was just like this beacon of light for me. He was so confident about, his belief that I could do this job. He saw something in me, like I'm sure he saw in many of you, that sort of lit a spark. But one of the challenges I had when I started was everywhere I went, people would come up to me and say, oh, you're the new Ray Simon. And I said, well, first, there's one Ray Simon. I can't be that. And then, of course, we would go on and I would laugh. And so I remember coming back to Ray and saying, everywhere I go, it's like, this is what people are saying. And, Ray looked at me with that look, he just, a little twinkle in his eye, made a little laugh. And he just looked at me and he said, make your own way. Be yourself and make your own way. And I never forgot that. It's really simple advice. Ray, he was sort of gave gentle advice. I never forgot that. And it has carried me through my personal life and my professional life. And I'm so grateful to him for that. And this was such a great place to be when I was here. I often say that among my professional highlights for my career, they were here at Utica College. And Ray was influential in both of those, winning the Distinguished Teaching Award, which was a great honor for me, and a book that Ray really gifted to me. I don't think he wanted to do it anymore, but he said, I really want you to take over this book, and I did, and I'm happy to say we're still publishing that book. I'm just talking to the publisher now about the 4th edition. So every time I have those conversations, I think about Ray. So it was a no-brainer for me to agree to come here and be here with all of you tonight. So we're going to get started on the program. I do want to just remind people, and I'll probably do it again, about the video booth over here. Please make sure you take a moment, and I think it's 2 at a time, right? No, big crowds in there, but 2 at a time to record a message for Ray, and those will be provided to him after the fact. So just wanted to remind everybody about that. So let's get started. As I said, we have a really distinguished lineup of speakers here, and people who are going to share a few words and perspectives and thoughts about Ray. First up is one of Ray's former colleagues, a longtime colleague who worked with Ray for quite a while. He's a Professor Emeritus of English and German, and his name is Frank Berkman.
That was very clever, Joe. Outsiders first. Most of you here are PRJ people. And there were times during my long tenure at Utica College, 44 and a half years, where I thought you guys were a little overbearing. So I am here to remind you that I was Simonized in a different way, and that Ray went well beyond the role of founder of a program and great teacher. When I came in 1969, he'd been here for 20 years, and he was already then a living legend. In 1973, through circumstances that need not be discussed, I became chairman of the Division of Humanities. And Ray was the chairman of the Division of Business Administration. I was a raw junior chairman, and he was a seasoned senior chairman. In fact, Larry Baker, who at that time ran the Office of College Relations, said to me, "He is not only a great teacher, he is a wise man." When I started this particular chairmanship in 1973, we had just gotten ourselves a brand new academic dean, Carol Guardo. She was the first woman dean in the history of Utica College. I got along fine with her. I think we probably felt some sort of kinship, both of us being raw at our job. It was her first deanship. And so we had our weekly meetings, and I noticed very quickly that Ray was a kind of steadying influence in all of that. That she would often, if not defer to him, certainly seek out his opinion on a particular matter. And I had the benefit of having him in the office right next to mine in the Pernod Hall. And so I could ask him, could talk to him when I felt I needed to. So I want to share just a couple of reminiscences from that time with you. Utica College ran into a very difficult time in 1975 when Chancellor Eggers of Syracuse University wanted to sell the campus to the State University without the programs, without the faculty and staff, and without the students. He hadn't done his homework, though, and our foundation board, that has now, of course, become a board of trustees, pointed out to him that Syracuse might very well own the buildings because of the mortgages, but they didn't own the ground those buildings stood on. That ground was owned by the foundation board. And in a great big hissy fit, he fired the president and did all sorts of other things that we were very fearful of. So during this difficult time, the dean needed to attempt to continue to deliver the academic promise that we had given to our students. And once in a while, it got too stressful for her. So I remember one meeting where we were sitting, and she had had some serious disagreement with the president over some matter, and she kept talking about it in the chairman's group. First of all, I thought that it was probably out of line for her to do that. And secondly, I just found it boring. I had heard that before. And so I kept reading the New York Times, which in my youthful days I was reading, "You will not see me go near it" these days. Afterward, Ray very quietly came over and he said, "Frank, you know, I think you should go and apologize to Carol. I think she was kind of put out." And I thought about it and I said, "You're right, I better go do that." And I did, and things got patched up. Ray was like that. He'd look out for a raw recruit like me. It was not just house of family and this and that. And that was important to me too, because my marriage was breaking apart and all of that. So it's a difficult time for me. He was a very devoted family man, and in that sense also a great support to somebody who was beginning to lose that part. But also during this very difficult time, it was good to know that he and others like him, Chris Foley and all the other early pioneers, had gone through a very, very difficult time at the college before, when the stream of GIs subsided and the college enrollment dropped precipitously. And I remember how Chris Foley told me with tears in his eyes that he had to let faculty in his area go. So for somebody like me who'd just been there a few years, it was good to know these guys have been through the wars. They will know what to do to get us through this and to steady us and so on. Now, Ray may have been wise, but it doesn't mean that he didn't have a kind of a lively temperament. Those of you who played poker with him will know more about that than I do. But he would sometimes, even right in the chairman's meeting, say to something that the dean proposed, that's not going to work. So that day, the chancellor came down to replace Amby de Flummery, who was a very nice man, but had really become adrift. He brought somebody with him to replace the president on an interim basis, Harold Rankin, who had been the dean of continuing education at Syracuse University and who had retired, and the chancellor had asked him to come back and do this stint at Utica College. Harold asked all the chairmen to stay on, and that was a smart move, not because we were necessarily all brilliant, but because there needed to be some continuity for somebody coming in cold. And he was a very low-key guy. He listened and he looked and tried to find out what the problems were. The faculty had begun to unionize, and the Syracuse University didn't want that, so there was an additional problem here. Well, anyway, I don't know why he asked me, but he asked me one day and he said, what do you think Professor Simon would say to this particular project? And I said, I think he's going to say, that's not going to work. And then he's going to think about it. And in a couple of hours or so, he'll come to you and say, well, maybe we ought to give it a try. And later on, Harold said to me, it was exactly as you had predicted. That I am fond of Ray is an understatement. I owe him a great deal, as all you PRJ people do. And I am just absolutely flabbergasted to see that he has reached this milestone. And so let us hear it for Ray for reaching the milestone and for Lynn for helping him get there.
Thanks, Professor Bergman. That was great. So I think we're going to see a video clip right now. This features one of the early Simonized graduates, Owen Kimura, class of '53, founder of Celery Field's Bird Naturalist Project in Sarasota, Florida, and he's going to share some thoughts about Ray.
Hi, my name is Owen Kimura, class of '53. I started at Utica College in 1950 and got on the journalism line to apply for a journalism major, but this young professor came to me and he said, why don't you get on the public relations line, it's shorter. He convinced me to get on that line, and I became a public relations journalism major. And I never looked back. That was a good move on my part. Of course, the professor was Raymond Simon. He taught me just about everything I know in public relations and journalism, and the principles that he the principles that he gave me, I carried through with me to Young and Rubicam, where I spent 10 years, to NBC, where I spent another 20 years, and to my last place of employment, Owen Kamara Associates, where I spent 15 years. My wife and I started this little public relations firm, and it ended up being a boutique operation. We had a small company, but we ended up with clients like General Motors, AT&T, PBS, and a number of others. But all through the years, over 40 years, we didn't make many moves without remembering the things that Raymond Simon taught us in those early classes at UC.
So next up is somebody who doesn't really need any introduction, the Honorable Sherwood Boehlert, class of '61, and I think we have a bit of business that we're going to do right before Congressman Boehlert delivers his remarks.
You know what they say, Congressman, you can run, but you can't hide. And we're catching up on some business that needs to be done. So could you come forward, please? We'd like to present the Raymond Simon Institute Award to the Honorable Sherwood L. Boehlert for the class of 1961 as our outstanding public relations journalism alumnus at Utica College. And I believe you were unable to make it up for this, the presentation originally, so here it is today.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
This is very special, Pat, and I really do appreciate it. Those of us who have been Simonized acknowledge that we are the privileged and the better for it. I can't think of a non-relative who has had a greater, more positive impact on my life. And I dare say all of us in this room who worship at Ray's altar would echo that same sentiment. What a wonderful occasion this is. A centennial celebration in honor of our highly respected mentor at our beloved alma mater. And we say that beloved with underline and emphasis and in capital letters. This is such a great, great school, and it has meant so much to me and all of us who have been privileged to attend here. For openers, I've been asked to extend greetings from a special friend of Ray's and a former professor for many of us, Dick Costa. We live across the street from each other, so I see him regularly, and I can report that he is doing well, recovering from major surgery, heart valve replacement, just 3 weeks ago. He's up and about and pretty chipper at 94 years of age. With Ray at 100 and the youngster Dick Costa at 94 close behind, I guess the moral of the story is that if you identify with Utica College and its pioneering public relations program, longevity is part of your destiny. Those of us who are gathered here are the envy of so many of our classmates scattered far and wide. They wish they were here. Like so many of you, I'm in regular contact with so many of them. After all, we were trained and well trained at that to be in the communications business. Typical of one of our own is Bernie Roswick, still going strong as a public relations consultant in the Los Angeles area. Bernie and I are in steady contact with our email exchanges, the last several of which never missed the opportunity to remind me to give Ray a big hug for him from one of his biggest fans. I intend to do just that when I have a chance to see Ray. When I think back to what many of us who are seasoned refer to as the good old days at the Plant and Hart Street epicenter of what passed for a campus, I am reminded that those of us studying under Ray Simon felt that we were special. No, that's not really so. Make that we knew we were special because we were enrolled in one of the first programs of its kind in the country, conceived, nurtured, and embellished by a human dynamo. Ray Simon knew every one of his students, not just from glancing at a seating chart or looking at a name tag. Ray made a personal investment of time and energy in each individual under his tutelage. And he was always there when needed to give counsel on the handling of an assignment or advice on dealing with many of the challenges that crop up in a student's life. His attention to his students' needs didn't end upon the completion of a coursework or approaching graduation. He was perhaps the key factor in securing the first job which launched so many successful careers. And it didn't stop there. I think I can say without fear of contradiction that once a student of Ray Simon, always a loyal disciple of Ray Simon. The good professor's interest in one of his students didn't stop with the awarding of a degree. A lifelong bond had been established, and speaking from personal experience, maintained over the years. We are all the beneficiaries of the hard work of and inspiration provided by the truly great man we honor this evening. However, we would be guilty of a sin of omission of the highest order if we failed to give an exceptionally well-deserved tribute to his partner and the love of his life, Lynn. The Simons are a team, and how fortunate we all are to have had them touch our lives in a way which is truly enriching. And I can't leave without acknowledging something. So many of us here, especially in the early days, used to hand in our assignments and just look up and pray to the heavens that we would get a decent grade, only to find out we'd get it back and it would be 68. Nice try. Well, I'm afraid if Ray were here and grading this performance, that's the grade he would give me. But I'll tell you this, I thank the good God up above every single day of my life that I was privileged to be part of a great institution like Utica College under the mentorship of a truly great and decent and fine educator named Ray Simon. Thank you so very much.
That was terrific. Thank you, Congressman Bowler. So next up is Rob Flaherty, class of '81, Senior Partner, Chief Executive Officer, and President Ketchum.
It's an honor. I feel like I'm representing many of my friends from our era. First, I just want to say that following the congressman, no one has done more for this region of the country than Sherry Bollard. So can we hear it again for him? Just for all the years you're in Washington, every one of us was cheering you on and very proud that you graduated from Utica College. So thank you so much. Also, we're here to celebrate the extraordinary contributions and legacy of Ray Simon, but I want to start by celebrating someone else who has been a guiding force for this program for 35 years, a great friend to all of us, and has made her own extraordinary contributions and legacy. Kim Landon, right here. So, I don't know if they have it up on the screen, but I want to share this with my friend Gary Greats in it. And I'll just put it right here. What a treat and a privilege. In June of this year, just a couple months ago, just weeks before Ray's 100th birthday, Bob Feldman, Gary Greats, who's right here, Luke Lambert, and I had the opportunity to visit with Ray and Lynn at their home in New Hartford. What a treat. It was a great visit, and we just loved it. It made for a great afternoon. One of the most striking moments in Ray's living room was to see his entire full-wall bookshelf of all of the books that he used to teach us in the classroom. Those books meant so much to us. Tammy's here. This is my wife Tammy's edition of Public Relations Concepts and Practice from 1978. This is back when a textbook cost $16, by the way. I mean, look, this is still on our bookshelf at home along with every other book from these courses. And what you saw, we had the privilege of taking the books down. And what you saw on every page were dozens of notes on every page where he had annotated every page of his own books. He's not teaching someone else's textbook, his own books of everything he wanted to impart to us. And what it reminded us of how extraordinary he is, how hard he worked for us. Let's remember, those of us who were in his classes, 12, 15, 20 students would turn in a paper on a Monday. By Wednesday, we'd all get them back. Every page annotated with notes. You prayed for the paragraph to have good next to it. Sometimes it didn't have good. And then on the back, there was a full typed page of notes stapled to the back with, of course, a grade. He did this for 3 classes a week for 50 years. He wasn't just teaching us. He was showing us what a work ethic looked like. He was leading by example. He was raising the bar. He was setting a gold standard. And he also taught us a way ahead of its time version of public relations. It was all about corporate responsibility, promoting news with a journalist's eye for integrity. It was all about ethical choices. We were learning that in the 70s, and it's what our business is all about today. But that was 35 years ago. As I say, he wasn't just teaching. He was raising us just one step shy of the way a parent raises a child. He raised generations of professionals to be the very best in the business. He inspired us to be our best, if only to adequately impress him when we turned in that paper. As I say, he set a high standard. You wanted to earn his praise. You wanted to be your best. By the time we graduated, we weren't just ready, we were a little bit cocky. I don't know what they taught you at your college, but I can do this job. And for many of us who didn't have family connections at all in the world of business when we graduated, Ray was a one-man national career network. I've only had 3 jobs in my career, and I can trace every single one of them back to a referral from Ray. By the way, he never, ever stopped teaching. As we were leaving his house in June, Bob and I were the last to back our rental car out of the driveway. To our surprise, 100-year-old Ray Simon comes walking out toward our car and knocked on the window. He said, "Bob, this driveway is very difficult. You're going to have to really crank it." No, crank it some more. Ray is incredible. What a gift, what a legacy, and he is still a living legend. So happy birthday to Ray Simon. What an honor to be here tonight. Thank you.
That was great, and a good Ray imitation, too. Very good. I also just, I'm glad that Rob mentioned Kim, because I just want to quickly, I know this is a night about Ray, but, you know, Kim for me, was just such an exceptional colleague. And I don't know, even though we don't see each other all that much, I don't know, when we reconnect, it's like it was just yesterday, and I remember all our therapy sessions in your office, and those were always fun. So next up is Michelle Ford Adams, class of '01, and I'm proud to say one of my former students, and she is the annual giving director at Braxton St. Luke's Hospital Foundation.
Just said to my table, I have to go after that speech. Do my best. I have known Professor Simon for nearly half of my life. I first met him my freshman year of college, and there was something about this Emeritus professor that I immediately liked. At the time, I was a young student who didn't know my direction in life, yet I knew almost immediately after our first conversation that any success that I had in the field of PR or life, as I would learn, would also be his. And I know many students felt the same way. Professor Simon was special. At the time I entered college, he was retired. I quickly learned that retired was simply a word when it came to Professor Simon, for he was anything but. It was not at all uncommon to see him walking on campus as I was heading to and from class. He always took the time to stop and say hello. In fact, up until just a few years ago, he would stop by the library daily to get his New York Times. One year when I was president of the PRSSA, Professor Zapala was then our chapter's advisor, and he shared that he was going to be going on sabbatical the next semester, and that our advisor would be none other than Professor Simon. To say learning from him was thrilling would simply be an understatement. He mentored me and the other students during his time in that role, and I know we were all so grateful to have been very briefly Simonized. Each year, our PRJ students would look forward to the annual RSI brunch. One RSI Awards event stands out in my mind. Professor Simon gave each student a gift from the RSI, a Utica College blanket, and a Swiss Army knife. As he handed them out, he said, wearing that special Professor Simon smile, that it was a cold world out there and that we needed to be prepared for anything. And boy, was he right. After I graduated, I still remained in touch with Professor Simon and got to better know his wife, Lynn. My husband and I were thrilled to have them both as guests at our wedding. Professor Simon became a first-time grandfather a few years before we had our first child, so he was in his 90s. Soon, we would see each other, and our conversations turned from being mainly Utica College RSI focused to talking about the kids and sharing fun places to take our little ones. So as we all gathered today to celebrate Professor Simon's 100th birthday, I can only say that I am most grateful and humbled to have been able to know and learn from Professor Simon for a small part of his first 100 years. Happy birthday.
Well, you did good. That was great. No worries. So now I'd like to welcome to the podium President Todd Hutton.
I'm going to try to speak directly to Ray as well. We hope that he will join us in his own special way. After hearing the various remarks from our guests this evening, it only seems fitting that Utica College Alumni Council has decided to recognize Professor Ray Simon. And Ray, this is for you, with the highest award that they can bestow on any alum or friend of the college. So it's my honor on behalf of the National Alumni Council to recognize Professor Raymond Simon with the Pioneer Legacy Award. Kim, would you join me, please, to accept this award for Ray? And this is for Ray. Kim now will make a few remarks. He has it from his daughters, so please.
None of Ray's family could be here today, and believe me, they very, very much wanted to. His daughter Melissa works for John Hancock in Boston and has a small child and a very busy life, and just spent a week with him on his real birthday in August and could not make it happen. His daughter, Brooke, works in Houston for a company that sends her traveling around the world doing event planning and setting up, events much larger than this. She has sent me some comments, so if you don't mind, I'm going to read these. These are from Brooke Simon. So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining this very special occasion. My name is Brooke, and I'm very fortunate to be Ray Simon's daughter. My sister Melissa and I wish we could be here in person to honor Dad. I'd like to ask for your indulgence as I offer a perspective of Professor Simon from a familial standpoint. It's uncommon to have a dad who's pretty legendary and a mom like Lynn Simon, who also had an outstanding career. I love knowing that Dad has had a positive impact on many careers and many, many lives. It's also no coincidence that my sister and I both went into PR. For us, it's been an honor to be a faculty brat and doing things like singing Daddy's College to You to the tune of the birthday song when we drove on campus, being told to not interrupt Daddy because he was busy writing a book, stealing a chair from Dad's office and wheeling it around the administration building and only getting scolded occasionally, helping to grade papers when I was in 3rd grade. Okay, I was really just correcting spelling and grammar. I'm refraining. Serving all the guests at our house when it was Dad's turn to host the famous UC poker group. We have representatives here. Arguing over who would take Dad's lunch to him when he was enjoying summer days relaxing in the shade. And getting to sit in on Dad's classes over the years, and even guest lecturing a few times. Maybe I'm biased, but I'm constantly amazed by the impact Professor Simon has made in the field of public relations. One of his greatest lifetime achievements is being a fantastic father. Just so you know, Dad still has all of his grade books. And he kept some of his favorite exam papers, those little blue booklets. Maybe a few were written by some of you in this room. But thanks to his insistence on pseudonyms, back when he taught, we won't ever know, will we? Thank you.
Kim, I'd also like to present, and Ray, I'd like to present you with the traditional Pioneer Legacy box. I'm sure he can find something to put in it. But Kim, I'd like to present this as well.
Yes, sorry. Oh, very nice. I'm making sure he gets all of these. It's coming your way, Ray.
So as we bring this tribute to Professor Simon to a close, we are at this very moment turning the page for the public relations and journalism programs that you've known in the past. Ray's legacy is in this room, but his legacy is also this program, which we cannot allow to wither. We are ushering in a new future for these programs, and it's befitting that the development of this innovative curriculum coincides with the founder's 100th year, the founder who created the most innovative PR program in the nation. You will hear much more about the new curriculum in the coming months, but let me give you a hint of what Dean Norrie and the PRJ faculty have been working on. They are retooling the PR program to make it more business-centric and to ensure that it addresses the contemporary needs of the modern practitioner. This will include more exposure to social media tools as well as modern brand marketing techniques. We are launching a new blended MBA in January that will offer a specialization in PR and digital brand management. A number of the alumni in this room contributed suggestions for this program in meetings this year, one of whom is Rob. And Rob, thank you. We expect the new communications and media major to be approved this fall and will launch next fall. This will replace the existing journalism and communication arts majors by giving students an opportunity to study across the spectrum of media and communication specialties. Familiar to many of you will be courses emphasizing writing as well as digital, data, and public affairs reporting. We're also moving the Tangerine toward a stronger online presence. If you'd like to know more about this, please talk with Dean Norrie or any one of the faculty in attendance. So thank you, Ray, for what you created here nearly 60 years ago. And as the Congressman mentioned, it's our pledge that we're going to be and going to do much, much better in the future than 69 or 68. Nice try. That's our pledge to you, Ray, for this program. It's been one of the best in the country. It must continue to be one of the best in the country. And I'm going to digress a bit from my formal remarks. I had a chance to talk with the Golden Pioneers this morning about this institution and its very beginnings. We are a pull yourself up by the bootstrap institution. That's at our very DNA and our very core. And that's something to be very proud of. We're not a country club school. And Ray Simon would never have allowed us to become that type of an institution. We are down to earth, we are practical, we are pragmatic, and we strive for excellence. And that is in our DNA, and that's because Ray Simon and his colleague like Virgil Crisafulli injected that into us in 1946, 47, 48, those early years. We are characterized by tenacity and perseverance and amazing innovation and amazing creativity. And the day that Ray Simon went to the faculty at Syracuse, and I would love to have been there, and when he looked them in the eye and he said, "You're full of," I'll let you fill in the blank. Probably it wasn't baloney, although with knowing Ray it was. That, yes, indeed, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds can learn public relations, because I had them in Germany in the midst of the most horrendous circumstances you could ever imagine, and they were practicing public relations in those circumstances. So I know that you can teach young people that venerable profession. And he told them to go to hell, and I'm going to do it. And that was the beginning of what UC is today. And I'm looking out at my colleagues, at Frank and John Johnson, the folks who have been here a far lot longer time, and Kim, than I have been. And they know full well that he is their legacy that he passed on to them. And High, I didn't see a High as well, another one of our older colleagues, senior colleagues. So I just want to just thank Ray. And Ray, thank you, because UC today is what it is because you had the fortitude and the perseverance and the wisdom to make us who we are today. So happy birthday, Ray. Let's give Ray a standing ovation.
So we want to, that's the end of the remarks for the program, but we do want to conclude tonight. I'm going to turn your attention to the screen and one kind of final salute to Ray as we conclude the evening.
I came to Utica College in 1949 at the bequest of Professor Robert Willett, who saw public relations as a academic program in an undergraduate school that he felt would have great success in the future. Uh, 1949, 1950, we were one of only 8 colleges in the United States that had a 4-year degree program in public relations. And later, during the 50s, we were one of the first colleges to have a student public relations student society. We were one of the founding chapters. So we were really pioneers, and in that respect, it fit the pioneer aspect of Utica College. I've always felt that my job is threefold. One is to try to help bring students here. 2 is to try to give them an excellent education and the skills necessary in their field. Basically, that's public relations and journalism. And 3 is to help them get started.
The builder lifted his gray old head. "Good friend, in the path I have come," he said, "there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been naught to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building the bridge for him."
So that's our program for the evening. Just on a final note from myself, to Ray, just an exceptional teacher, a brilliant mentor, a wonderful human being, and a great friend. So thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for including me in this great night. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. There's lots of food and drink left. Somebody get your phone. And one reminder, again, to make sure you record a video for Ray in the video booth over here to the right. Thanks, everybody.